Good evening. Hello, I am 40 Mike here with Travis Barrington, Oscar Mike Radio. I am the founder and managing director of Hellfish Haven. And here together, we are W.A.R. We are resilient and coming in.
W.A.R.
Yes, we're here to, let folks know that when in doubt, everything's still cool. We got it all going. Evening, May. Just, want to let everybody know how everything's going, check in with folks, see how everybody's going with the current, climate, what's going on in the veteran community, what's going on in the global community, and just make sure everyone's doing well. I do have a quick video that I put together this week that I do want to show real quick. See if this pops up and plays. I can't say, too much, good things about the PTSD coach app put out by the VA. If you go to va.gov, you can check out a bunch of the apps that those guys have put out. They're great tools, veterans and non-veterans alike. A lot of the situations and a lot of the tools inside of the apps are not specifically geared toward the veteran community. They're geared toward the trauma or the issue that they're dealing with, whether it's the insomnia coach, whether it's the PTSD coach, whether it's, CPT coach. There's a couple's like counseling app. Like the VA has really gone out and done a whole lot. I'm gonna pull it up, actually, see if I can share the link for that. Because they've gotten so many great apps lately that you just really want to be able to share with folks what we have out there. So I'm gonna pull this one up here and paste it in the comments. You guys check out the app store there, and I'll also throw it on the bottom real quick here for a banner. We'll show it for a minute. So that's the, if you go to mobile.va.gov app store, you can filter by audience, whether you do veterans or caregivers, healthcare professionals. They literally have over 100 different apps. Everything from, ask a pharmacist, military sexual trauma, CBT, insomnia, couples coach. The PTSD coach is the one that I've used a lot, as well as there's a mindfulness app that they have that is very good. It will set you up and do different programs with you. And they've actually got apps that are like targeted towards different groups of people as well. You've got the whole health app, which is, goes over everything from physical to mental to spiritual health. Again, the mindfulness coach, the insomnia coach will help you set up a better sleeping habit and get everything together there. And there's one, they have the Veterans Wellness Path is a increased balance and connective to American Indian and Alaskan Native veterans. They also have the Well Within coach that explores tools to help navigate common challenges for women veterans. So they really have things targeted there that help out not just, you know, veterans overall, but they do target individual groups too.
Well, I mean, you know, I think the success of the VA mobile app, you know, led to other apps being created and supported, and the response to the VA mobile app was overwhelmingly positive. I don't want to assume, but I think you use it, Mike. I use it, and it is nice when I need to not have to sit down in front of a computer and log in and do all that. I get an appointment update or, you know, results or whatever. It's right there in the app.
Absolutely. You know, the only problem that I've had recently is going now with the ID.me, having to log into that because I don't have a driver's license. I don't drive, and my passport's expired. So I'm waiting currently to get another appointment to get a new passport, so that way I can re-log into my stuff. Right now, I have to call the VA's phone number every time I need to go in and check things online.
Really?
Yeah, because they basically stopped. They used to have like DS login. They used to have
Yep.
like the VA.gov, the ID.me. There was like 5 different options to be able to log in, and because you can't use the uh, military ID, you can't make a photocopy of it. And that's what ID.me is doing with your ID or your passport. They're taking a copy of it and leaving it on file. So that way that's how they, you know, approve your name and, you know, give you the advanced level check mark so you can log in. And doing that, they can't do that with the military ID, so they're not able to do that. May is telling me that I should call the social worker. I will do that tomorrow. And anybody that is out there in Mass knows that we are getting at least a foot or more of snow coming Sunday into Monday. So make sure you guys are preparing for that. It's going to come fast and furious.
I mean, that's what they're saying. But, you know, the last couple of times they've done, you know, oh, the storm is coming. The storm is coming. They've been nothing burgers for storms. Like, you know, what are we doing here, guys? I mean, for real.
We haven't had a real good storm probably since what, 2015?
A really good storm, like, you know, oh, snap.
2015,
Got
16,
snow
yeah.
down.
When we got like those couple of them, what was like 12 inches and like 15, and like it just kept
Right?
dumping. Like
One right after the other.
every couple of days, it was like a foot plus, a foot plus. I was living in Somerville at the time, and like on street parking, like you have to not park on the street, you know, because of the parking ban. And then so you can park on one side, not the other. And then, you know, people aren't allowed to, you know, put the space savers in there anymore, but they sure as hell still do. Like people, you know, you can't, you know, take certain things away from the community here in New England, you know, and space savers are one of those things, you know, people throw a junk cooler, some of those, you know, throw out chairs, and, you know, if you move somebody's, you know, personal items to, you know, take a parking spot, your car is going to wreak havoc.
Oh, you're not supposed to just put space savers in there. And it's like, are you sure you really want to try to enforce that in, you know, certain parts of Boston? You sure it's a good idea? I don't know. I don't know.
May saying that in Buffalo they got the 6 to 8 feet of snow. You guys get that lake effect snow too. Like I had I was in the last unit that I was in the Guard. We were out of Syracuse, but we had one platoon was in Buffalo. So we had, you know, half the company was in Syracuse, half the company was in Buffalo. And when we would meet together, we'd probably usually go to Fort Drum to do our drills together. And we were at Hancock Air Force Base for the Syracuse platoon, the MPs in the headquarters section. And it was just wild because all the time we would go up there and there'd be these people that would be like, you know, we can't come to a drill this weekend because literally there's, you know, what was the old saying? Asshole deep to a 10-foot Indian was what they told us in what was it, down in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. That's how they would always talk about the snow coming in.
That's some serious snow.
And Kenny Clifford checking in saying, "Remember off fight over parking spaces in Somerville." Kenny, good to see you tonight. Thanks for checking in. Kenny was our combo sergeant with the 42nd MP Company, first tour OIF 3, 2004, 2005.
So what else is on your mind tonight, Mikey?
Tonight, just want to make sure folks are doing well. I saw I got your 2 lives at once is going to be doing an event coming up in April.
This is an event. I am no longer on the board of directors for that organization. Stuff's starting to move on in my life, but they're putting on an event April 11th. Yes.
Yeah. So I said that I would volunteer to put up a table for Hellfish Haven there.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So, I figured, any way to, like you said, when we were up in New Hampshire, seeing the way that Vet Fest really came together and all these organizations were there intermingling and sharing the opportunity to be able to talk to one another, really, it doesn't make sense why we can't be doing that more in Massachusetts. Like there was so many different orgs from Massachusetts that made that hike up to New Hampshire to be part of that event. And, so many orgs in New Hampshire that, had never previously, gone out and been part of an event. And, we have so many active nonprofits and, veteran service organizations in Massachusetts that we should be doing more together. And it's just, what kills me is the fact that, there is the Boston Veterans Collaborative that went well for, a good while under the leadership of Colonel Notch. Yep. And like, it was going good. And then, COVID hit. And then, the monthly summits that they hold became virtual, and like it kind of teetered off with that. Like you saw less and less, folks joining when it was something that people were going to a specific organization. Like when we went out and we went to the there's like a canoe organization right there just past Harvard as you go like follow the Charles and you come around towards like behind Alston. There's like a canoeing organization there. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's like a Boston community rowing, and they do rowing for veterans. They do a free program where you can come and you can, you jump in either a kayak or canoe, and they'll teach you how to row. Teach you the strokes and everything, and you get to do a couple hours every week, from spring to fall out there with that. I did that a couple times, and it was really cool to do. Definitely a lot more active than I thought it was going to be to take to row a boat. And holy smokes, like I've done my fair share of, canoeing like up on Saco River and things like that, where like you got a little bit of the rivers helping you, but like on the Charles where you're, paddling against it and like trying to go back around and navigate with, all the other traffic, it's definitely a workout.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And anybody that's, out there looking to, get involved in things like that, the community rowing program is really great. And that was like the last time that I went to a summit that was, on location and had a bunch of veteran organizations there. And it's just, there's something different when you can share information face to face with somebody versus virtually. Virtually, I don't know if it's my ADHD or if it's just the whole setup of it, but sometimes after, you have 5 or 6 speakers, you tend to, kind of drift off, you kind of lose information, or you're not really soaking it in as you would if you sat face to face with somebody explaining something, or somebody had the floor at an event.
That is the paradox, right? I mean, you can be in one of those conference type setups, and even if the person's talking 30 minutes, after the fourth one, they all kind of just start running together, and it becomes difficult to connect with somebody, especially if they're doing the speakers one right after the other. I definitely get where you're coming from there.
Yeah. And like, the thing that I really like about the collaborative that was going on was, you had, federal organizations, you had local organizations, you had, the VA, you had the nonprofits, you had the VSOs, you had your whole range of, organizations. And, that's what we need to have, because, there's so much out there that folks, we don't all need to be repeating the same thing. And like the thing that we talked about on a previous episode of War was that it was so important that veteran nonprofits have a distinct mission and have, their organization is going to do X, Y, and Z. Because if you were just a nonprofit that wants to help veterans, and then people donate to you and they don't see the help that's occurring, or they don't see the action, now you've also taken away somebody that's going to help support nonprofits and somebody that's going to support the veteran community. Now they're disenchanted because they donated and they saw nothing happen. So it's so important that, that you do have your mission, you do have it tailored, and you do show people, receipts for what they're donating to, and how it's, impacting the community.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Mike. I think you're going to see more and more in the next 3 to 5 years where people are going to start asking very specific questions about how many veterans have you helped? What have you spent our money on? What are the numbers? What's your outreach? They're going to want to know that kind of stuff. I think the days of people just writing checks for veterans causes there's still people out there going to do that. But depending on the size of the check being asked for, there's going to be some stipulations, some like, hey, I'm going to give you this, but I'm going to want this, this, and this. And I'm not sure if a lot of veteran nonprofits are ready for that unless they've been very mature for a very long time and are used to that level of scrutiny.
Yeah. And I also think that, that maybe that will help eliminate how many there are out there, because there are, I don't want to be wrong. I'm going to do a quick Google on this and see what it says. How many veteran I'm just going to do New England.
Sure.
Or in New England. All right. The total count for all 6 states is not listed. Over 600 identified in Massachusetts metropolitan areas alone. Massachusetts is 600 organizations in major cities: Boston 422, Worcester 103, Springfield 90. Regional providers, things like Veterans Inc., cover all of New England. Programs like Home Base, Home for Our Troops are based in the region. Over 45,000 veteran serving organizations nationally. The New England region maintains a dense network of support driven heavily by organizations concentrated in Massachusetts. So there are a lot of organizations out there, but there aren't people that know what these organizations are doing. And there aren't, the biggest thing, like when I do these coffee and camaraderie events that we do at the VFW in North Attleboro, guys will have a question, and it'll be something that we can recommend them to another organization for, but they just don't know about. And it's like, especially like at that Vet Fest, it was nice to be able to say, hey, somebody would have a question about something, and we could say, hey, you're looking to do, fishing with other veterans, you got rifles to rods over here, or you're looking to do motorcycles over here, or you're into NASCAR and driving, you got Fubar Studios and their mission and their organizations that that Doug works with. And it's like, but I don't think there's a clear place where folks go right now that they can see everything as it goes. Even when you go to the website for the collaborative, it can be overwhelming to click like the monthly calendar of events or the monthly like pin board, because you have every couple of days is a yoga event, every couple of days is a coffee event somewhere in the region, every day there's a meeting or a virtual event. And like, I think when you look at that, it does get overwhelming to try to figure out what you're looking for, but it is a great way to go through these, see these different things that are out there. Like they've got it set up good on the collaborate.vet website where if you need financial aid, you can click the financial tab and it'll break down what organizations can help there and things like that. And just, I hope that we can come together and that the executive offices of veteran services and what's the other one? The Office of Veteran Service Officer.
There's the Executive Office of Veteran Services. That's kind of like the statewide org, and then the Office of the Veteran Advocate
Yeah,
is looking at
Bob works at.
Monitoring everybody. So if you're supposed to get state aid or you're having a problem with a claim, or in this case, like with the stuff that happened at the soldiers' home during COVID, you're supposed to be able to contact the Office of the Veteran Advocate, and they can do triage and either tell you if they can, if you can get your issue resolved, or if it's like the soldiers' home issue, they can escalate things very quickly, and it's really different. I don't know if you're aware of this. Maybe you are. I don't know. It's independent of the EOVS, so
Really?
it's a partner slash oversight for the EOVS, whereas the EOVS reports to the governor directly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very interesting organization. I would encourage anyone to learn more about it. And other states are looking at this Massachusetts model and seeing how it works, so that you know how it is, Mike. A veteran comes into a problem, and sometimes by the time they get help, even if they had the problem right day one and started trying to get it escalated, it might be a month, 3 months, even 7 months before they finally get a resolution, because people drag their feet, things happen, whatever. And so the advocate is supposed to be able to move through that kind of thing very quickly.
And so it looks that the advocate's office also has regional liaisons too. So I'm going to see if I can pull up this image and throw it up here as a overlay real quick to share this information with folks. Because not only do you have the website, but here with the regional layout, depending on where you are in Massachusetts, you can contact any of these folks here.
Yep.
So these are your if you've got an issue and you need help with your veteran benefits, your veteran, family member, if you're a caregiver, if you, are a dependent, if you have a veteran in your life that has recently passed away, any of those, go ahead and, take a screenshot, grab that QR code. I'm going to share the link as well. And, even if you're not in Mass, I'm sure they would be willing to help you, lead you to the direction of, where you need to go and, who you're trying to see. Because that's one thing that I've always seen is, folks are out there willing to share information and be able to, go out there and let you know what's going on beyond, our Commonwealth. I haven't really seen a lot of times, going out there and, saying, I live in Rhode Island, or if I live in New Hampshire and I'm trying to figure out an organization that I've called somewhere in Mass, and they told, no, not our people, not our problem. They've always been very helpful to say, let me get back to you. Let me do a little bit of research and, finding that information and being able to share that. And that's one thing that I've seen has been very well within the veteran community of Massachusetts, is that they are willing to share resources and be able to help folks out that aren't in our area.
It's out there, and again, getting the word out is one of the most important parts of it. But also, like, look, if you're having a problem, you do not have to suffer alone. You do not have to be in silence. We don't want you to suffer in silence. We want you to, stick a paw in the air, and there are people out there that will get you the aid that you need.
Absolutely.
It's just that simple, and it seems very difficult to get people to buy into that sometimes.
And I don't know if it's, the way we were, broken down and built back up in the branches, and just the way that, it was always dogged on to, you don't want to go to sick call because you don't want to let your guys and girls you left, down. You don't want to go to sick call because you don't want to be the malingerer. But now that you're older, now that you're out, these things are important. These things are, you need to be able to go out there and get out that, you need to be able to go in and share your resources and your issues that you're having with somebody that can help you. You don't need to hold it all in yourself, and and all of a sudden at 50 years old, your heart just explodes. It's, too many men especially, bottle up their emotions and bottle up their anxieties instead of finding an outreach or an output for it. Whether it's a recreational thing like Hellfish Haven does, where we do gaming events and things like that, or it's being able to to listen to the resources that you drop on Oscar Mike Radio every week. There are things out there that people can become a part of. People can you got to find that sub community within the veteran community to really take advantage of things and be able to you know to fully immerse yourself. As we get older, and again, especially young men, they say that once you get to 45 to 50, guys usually have three or less friends in their lives, and like that's just something that's to me, I can't believe that. And it's like, to not have somebody to talk to not have somebody to reach out to, like, there are these organizations that are out there. There are people that are out there, and just find whatever you're looking for, whether it's video games, like you said, before on other shows, jumping on and be able to talk to guys that you've served with, over the headset. Well, shooting some bad guys in virtual warfare is just as great as being able to get together and play some pool or whatever it is. You got to be able to make the situation that you're in work. Kenny said he's maybe reach out to Cliff Coy. Cliff's great. He works at a veteran center in Boston, and that's also another great resource that's out there. That's adjacent to the VA, but they don't always report everything to the VA. So if you're worried about things with your your service connected claim, or you're worried about if you're still in the military, still in the Guard or Reserve, and you don't want to go into the mental health facilities that the military has, you're welcome in the vet center at any time to go there. It's a discreet location. They've got psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers on staff, and you can go in there. And they also do, I know the one in Boston does game nights every now and again with Frost Call, and they're always looking to do new things to be able to do outreaches and share with organizations out there.
I really think, man, I gotta tell you, I know video games get a lot of derision and hate and upturned noses from a lot of people, but I'm like, more and more, you start going down that rabbit hole online. I was looking for other people who may feel the same way you or I do, and there's a whole bunch of primarily guys out there who, you're right, that is how they decompress, one, from the day, and two, you can get online with your buddy and play some Halo, play some COD, play some Borderlands, whatever you want to do. No judgment, no whatever. You're all kind of on the same playing field and just be together virtually. And I think we can't overlook this as a way to bring people together. I know, again, there's a big push on getting people into physical buildings, and I get that. But you're not going to come to a physical location if you can't even socialize with somebody virtually. It's almost like a stepping stone. And to the thing with Yeah, I'm in that age range, and I would say I have, you know, probably three people in this planet who are my ride or die. If I come to them and say, "Hey, I got some stuff going down," they're there, and vice versa. And I think that's because the older we get, you just realize, some people are in it for themselves. Some people have their own agenda going on. You grow apart from people you grew up with, and you're not certain that spending the time developing new relationships is necessarily worth it. I think it is to a degree, but why try to get more and more friends when you've got two or three solid ones and behind you? So that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. And like another organization that I'm part of and that I do work with is Warrior Gamer Foundation. Uh, One of the things I do with them is I'm on their peer support crew, and they have basically it's a warm line where if you're having an issue, you can jump on their Discord for Warrior Gamer, Warrior GMR. I'll throw up a link in a second, and you basically go in and you drop a note to the peer support crew and say, hey, I'm having issue XYZ. It doesn't have to be military related. It just could be, you're having a stressor in your life. You're having something that, that's bugging you and you just need, an ear for somebody to listen to you. You just need to be able to get it off your chest real quick. And it's just, it's a place where you can have a personal conversation with somebody and you don't have to worry about them, judging you or, being, giving you advice that, isn't good. It's a peer that's a fellow veteran that's in the gaming community that is out there to help and support you. And that's one of the things that I like about the organization and why I've stuck with it is, is this peer program that they have. And like I hope eventually it gets mirrored by other organizations. And right now while we have the DAV is being run by, a Massachusetts gentleman, and the head of the executive offices of Veteran Services right now is run by past guest, former Brigadier General Andrea Gale Bennett. She's also the head of the DAV right now. She's the DAV commander for Massachusetts.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, how does she do that without a conflict of interest at all?
So that right there, she is not the elected director of the EOVS. With was it Santiago that is leaving the position?
Well, they have a new person in there. It's a doctor.
And so with that, I'm sure she's got to take hat off A and put hat B on, because like I work with her because her DAV post is up in Swampscott.
Yeah.
And they've wanted to do an event that we've been trying to do a couple times. We tried to do it over February vacation a few years back, but we're unable to get everything together. And I'm hoping that with everything going on, that the partnership that National DAV and like Regiment Gaming has come together, and they're starting to put together these a lounge in Texas for veterans to come to. Like they call it a third place. You've got your home, you've got your work, and the third place that you can go to socialize and gather. It used to be, your legions and your VFWs, but with so many of those posts, closing, and so many of them that are very canteen and alcohol centric, the younger generation of vets aren't so into that. They're not looking to go get wasted every night. They're not looking to have alcohol be involved in every aspect of their socialization with other veterans. So I'm hoping that even if it's not Health for Shaving that does it, even if I can convince DAV, that Massachusetts needs more places for veterans to be able to go. We need to be able to create a lounge like this with you have computers set up for folks to do gaming together right there, where you have a couple of private rooms where you could have a TV where, 3 or 4 guys can, do some local gaming together there. Do internet gaming, virtual. You could have, a small little podcast area where guys can come in and, get people like yourself to be able to teach you how to, what you did at the Boyden Library, for instance, teaching folks how to, how to do a podcast and how to be effective, using your voice on the internet. And, simple things like that would be something where veterans could go and, and gather in a place like this and be able to do it. And, if the DAV were willing to, put their name out there and, like I said, when we looked at their bank account last year sometime, we did a little expose on it, and they've got 96 million in the bank.
Wow.
And when you've got 96 million in the bank, any donation that you're making today to the DAV, that money won't be used for at least 8 years.
Wow.
So it's just wild that how strong an organization like that is, but there's not a bunch of physical buildings. They share buildings with the VFWs. They share buildings with the Legions, and they rent. In Boston, for example, the Chapter 3, they meet at Boston Bowl, they meet at a bowling alley, and it's like, why can't we get them to create a veterans lounge or someplace like this? Whether it be with Hellfish Haven, whether it be with other nonprofits, if it just wants to be a DAV owned, thing, I'd be happy to help, set up and get it launched. We just need places for vets to go, that safe, sober environment where, you're not being, hey, come on over here. If you come to the Dart League, you're going to have the temptation of folks being like, oh, I'm going to buy around for everybody, you're doing this. And it's like, if you have a place that doesn't have that, the bar, you eliminate that. And I feel like that would help so many veterans to be able to get out and actually go to places, and would help, a lot of veterans that are more, introverted, if they could, have a place where they could connect online first to somebody and then be able to go from there and, share beyond that, to come to the actual facility.
Sure.
So I'm hoping that, that I can get down and have a meeting with, with Andrea on, the DAV front or the mass front to see which hat to work with her to be able to create something like this. I just feel like with the VFWs and Legions, disappearing, there needs to be something new created, for the veteran community.
Well, certainly does, and I think it's our time.
Yeah, and Kenny's saying with even with injuries, virtual may sometimes be better.
Yeah, makes sense.
And two, if you have a lounge or something like that too, make it so it's accessible for veterans and their families, veterans and caregivers. Veterans, don't it doesn't have to be an exclusive veterans club. A lot of things that I see go down at these VSOs is you have infighting between the auxiliary and the veterans, because at one point the veterans outnumbered the auxiliary, and nowadays it seems that the auxiliary members outnumber the veterans. So you kind of have a little butting of heads to who's running the show. And that's really sad to see too, because these organizations were built for the veteran, and the auxiliary is supposed to be there to support the veteran community. And just seeing the fighting going on inside of it, it's just really it's hard to see sometimes. And seeing these places close, like the Foxborough Post, the Lawrence W. Foster Post 93 that I was commander of for 3 years. We had the bar in the basement. We had a urinal in the basement. That was it. If you had to go number 2, you had to go upstairs in the hall, and you had to turn on lights because it was normally dark up there, and make your way through. So it was unfriendly for older veterans to walk down the stairs in the basement and then have to walk upstairs. You have to use the bathroom, and then for female patrons to have to go upstairs, use the bathroom. And I said, hey, can we move the canteen and the club area upstairs? If there's a function, we'll go downstairs for that, time period. But I just don't feel like we're getting the most out of this building. And my trustee said, no, we're not changing anything. And a year later, they sold the building. And now it's a restaurant. Instead of us having a place to gather, we sold our building. And it was tough to see too, because one of the veterans that was a member, and he was on the e-board, his wife had passed away, and he used some of the money from life insurance to be able to fix the oil in the building. So we went from oil to natural gas to save money for the club. And then within 2 years, we were selling the building. So, I mean, obviously, he got repaid for, his loan to the organization with the sale to the people that bought it. But it was just wild to see.
Wasn't the same.
And like I said, now you just have, the VFW in Foxborough 2 isn't even owned by the VFW. So years ago, a woman fell in the parking lot. Nobody went and, defended the VFW in the court. So the decision was made against the organization. And then they did a sale of it. And they're supposed to notify using the paper or like something like that. You have to publicly advertise that you've got this. And we tried to do that. And I literally had it all there. And they advertised it out in like Western Mass saying the sale's happening. And so nobody from the area knew that it was happening. And we lost that building. So it was another building that, veterans of Foxborough put their heart and souls into. And we just lost a building. And now that hall, it's called the V. And, people think that, when they rent the hall, it's going to the veterans, but it's going to a private organization. And the veterans only have the bar downstairs.
Yeah.
And you've got Oscar Mike Radio coming up. What do you have going on tonight?
I have a gentleman, an Army veteran, Air Defense, Joe Urick, who is the host of the Sober Vet podcast. He had problems with alcohol, and he got his way out of it and uses this podcast to help others. And so it was a really encouraging conversation, and just an exciting story.
Excellent. And folks can find that wherever their favorite podcasts are found.
Facebook, Rumble, OscarMikeRio.com. Be all set.
I see you're rebuffing OscarMikeRadio.com.
Yep. So got
that. More friendly folks can go over there and check out all the Travis got going. He's also part of was it MB Military Broadcast?
W.A.R. Radio, Military Broadcast Radio.
Yep. So Travis is also part of that. Be advertised on that Thursday lineup. On I think they also don't they have a Roku streaming?
They got a Roku channel. I haven't seen that clip for Roku, but they're killing it. They're absolutely working hard to move that forward. I'm really proud of them.
So Travis is part of that. And, anywhere you get your podcast, if you want to, download it, or if you want to watch it live on YouTube, he's got both the audio version and the video versions that will be going live at 8. He's always in the chat, talking to folks each week. So if you guys want to jump in there, check it out. And, another thing that we just talking about, safe, sober environment, definitely going to be checking out on that. So
absolutely. Well, Mike, it's good to see you. And, my God, January is almost over, and it's moving fast.
It is. And this is year 3 for us on WAR.
Yeah.
So we'll keep it going. Thanks for everybody for checking in with us tonight. Like I said, go over, check out Travis at 8:00 for the Oscar Mike Radio, his weekly show. And is episode 500 come and gone, or is it on the way still?
It's on the way, July.
So that's going to be a big one. We're going to be, we have to do something big for that one, Travis.
Absolutely.
So we'll do some planning and we'll get back to you guys, folks. Thank you guys for joining us. We are WAR. We are resilient. And
We're WAR. We're resilient. We'll see you next time.
Take care of each other. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Mike.